Now welcome to another edition of News from Naboo with Oars Lightning Takes. And let's get right to the news.
Alright, I like to personally, for new shows coming out and stuff, follow the streaming viewership data.
Yep.
Usually
I've been
we
very curious for the numbers on Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, usually I like to follow Nielsen. It's like the gold standard. It is the top of the tops, but there are other things that can get us the information a little bit faster.
Maybe not as accurate as them, or
I agree. Nielsen takes like 4 weeks before they'll get that information to you.
Yeah.
Whereas Samba TV only gathers data from users who use their app. So that can be a little bit skewed too. Then there's Luminate. They also try to be more serious like Nielsen. They're trying to get the overall viewership by analyzing various sources, not just one app. So like I said, Nielsen will have a few weeks before we hear anything. But Luminate, on the other hand, they come out on Fridays or Saturdays, and they give you the previous 7 days, so they already have data for the debut of Skeleton Crew.
Okay, but they wouldn't have for this weekend.
Correct. Not for its opening weekend.
Yeah, so that could be a big number.
Right.
Just something to keep in mind before we even get to this number.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they're not on the top 10 for Illuminate for the original shows.
Okay. That's not a good sign, but
yeah,
like I said, we don't have we have the first 5 days that would be?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
To put it in perspective, the number 10 show was that new one, Day of the Jackal, which I haven't gotten a chance to watch yet, but I've heard it was decent.
What day did that come out on?
I don't remember what day it came out on.
Okay, well, I mean, it would just be for comparison's sake if we knew that day compared to Skeleton Crew, if it came out the same day or a day later or earlier.
We do know that they got 332.3 million minutes streamed, which means Skeleton Crew had to have performed lower than that.
Yeah.
Comparing things, Luminate says that Acolyte was in the charts for week 1, but they only had 210 million minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. In week 2, their number went up to 380.5 million minutes.
I don't think that aligns very well with Nielsen, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we'll kind of have to wait and see. I mean, this is a show that it's been getting good word of mouth. I think a lot of YouTubers have been saying, you know what? It's kind of good fun.
Yeah,
it's
good.
interesting.
It's fun. It's not, like I said, it's not the greatest thing I have ever seen in my life.
But it's not the Acolyte.
No,
the worst.
It is an enjoyable show. It is not profound, deep Star Wars that is amazing on every front, but it's good.
Mm-hmm. But with all this good word of mouth means that it could gain more viewership as time goes on.
Sure.
Andor did.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we can take away from this is it's not a runaway success.
Mm-hmm.
That it didn't just, out of the gate, 5 days in, smashes some records. Or not necessarily records, but just crack the top 10 new shows, which is, again, for Star Wars, kind of sad.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to take anything away from Skeleton Crew. I'm just saying we are at a point where a Star Wars show can't make the top 10. And yeah, didn't have a full 7 days of time to do that, but even still.
Yeah, I do hear what you're saying, and it's a little disheartening.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily shocking at this point, but it is still disheartening that we are at this point where a new show is. I feel like, and again, this is just my perspective, that it is not really making waves beyond the people who are, that kind of core fandom who is watching it, maybe some beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see it trending all over Twitter. I don't feel like, or X, I don't feel like everybody I know is watching it. In fact, nobody I know is watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody I ask or talk to, or when I was at Thanksgiving, Skeleton Crew, nobody knew what it was necessarily. And again, anecdotal.
Well, it's because it's not a big name. I mean, even when Ahsoka came out, you hear people say, "What's an Ahsoka?"
Yeah, that's true.
This isn't a name. This isn't, I look like Boba Fett, something,
Sure. But it still has one very important name on it. It still has Star Wars on it, and that name just doesn't carry the weight it once did. It doesn't mean I have to watch it like I think it once meant for a lot of people.
Right, let's move into another piece of information I got about Skeleton Crew. Do you know the creators already have a tentative plan if they get a season 2?
That feels like a big if right now, but it's interesting.
Well, they did a new interview with Collider, and I'm talking about Christopher Ford and John Watts kind of talked. They kind of talked about how they would have their plans take into account the real life aging of their young cast.
Smart
which
move.
Is very different than how Stranger Things works.
Yeah, I think they're 40-year-olds now, but they're still playing like high schoolers.
Well, Watts said, "We 100% have an idea for a second season, and we know what we would do. We have a built-in ticking clock of the kids and their age, and by the time we would get production going, we know what age they would be, so we would be writing towards that. you'll be growing up with the kids. It would be something like a 3 to 4 year time jump to make sense. We haven't seen the kids in a while, so it just depends on how tall the kids are. But we wouldn't do like a Stranger Things where we're like, it's the next day, because it won't be.
Yeah, 2 years later, it's the next day, and they clearly aged.
Clearly have aged, yes. It's hard to watch that just season 1, season 2, because you're like,
it's got to be very jarring.
Yeah.
Because if you don't watch it for a couple of years and then you watch it again, you're not really noticing it so much. But I think I was joking about 40, obviously, but I do think one of the kids is now 30. One of the high school, I don't remember which one, but I remember hearing the other day someone told me, one of them actually is 30. It's like, oh, jeez.
It feels crazy, right?
Yeah.
Well, Ford continued saying, talking about this time jump they were talking about. He said, it's built into that it would be a bigger time jump forward because it does take so long to get things moving. This isn't like it would take place the next day because the kids are going to be older. There are so many repercussions. It's like you want to catch up later.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes... I don't know that it would be a huge deal because it's not like you would have real-world comparison necessarily. Like Stranger Things, it's a little weird that they're in high school or whatever it might be still, right? That feels weird.
At the same time, the kids are going to look older.
Well, yeah,
I mean, the boys are going to go through growth spurts, and all of a sudden they're going to be a lot taller.
Yeah, they might have full beards and mustache. That might be a
hard
little
to
strange.
say.
Like,
it's the next day.
Cobra Kai is another one that has that problem where the kids
are
a lot older,
school,
than they're supposed to be, and they do when you see them because they do try to make them look like kids in the show still, and when you see like interviews them outside of the show, you're like, oh my god, you look like you're an old man.
Harry Potter ran into that problem as well.
Yeah, not as bad. I
feel like Daniel Radcliffe was looking quite a bit older to me.
Yeah, maybe.
And it is years that go by, but with production, that's not how it works.
Yeah, it's going to be curious to see how HBO does the show.
For reference sake, HBO is saying that they have 10 seasons that they're planning on. 10 seasons. God. How many years is that? Even if they do one a year, that is 10 years. I mean, yes, Harry Potter is supposed to grow from first year through his last year at Hogwarts, but that's a lot of time.
Can you imagine being that kid who's probably going to be like 9 or 10
I've
or
signed
something
a contract
right now?
for the next 10 plus years of my life.
That's a commitment.
I'm sure there's like contracts that are like, oh, you can't do anything dangerous. You can't put your life in jeopardy because we need you.
Yeah, but I mean, it's weird to think that you're going to be like 9 or 10 and be signing your next 10 years away or more probably.
Oh, you mean your parents will be signing your next 10 years?
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. Not necessarily.
Do you have to refigure out a contract when you become of age and now it's your contract versus the contract your parents signed for you?
I don't know what the legal ramifications there are, but
I don't either.
Going back to Skeleton Crew, it is going to be, speaking of season 2s and shows that maybe didn't get a season 2, not to make this a fun comparison, but how angry will the Renew the Acolyte movement be if Skeleton Crew is not a wild success at the ratings, and it maybe does comparable to Acolyte, and it gets renewed? What will that say?
I think it says a lot. I also think it shows that maybe likability of the show is worth something, and it should be worth something.
I think it will say that it wasn't just about a numbers game, even though I think that was 90% of it, the numbers, the budget of Acolyte. Because I don't think we know what the budget of Skeleton Crew was. It looks like it was probably a pretty penny. I mean, it was, we know that, but... I
mean, the show's looking good. The sets don't look too small or cramped.
That's what I'm saying. When we've seen some of the upcoming episodes are going to different planets, different things, so it looks very, looks very elaborate and expensive. And so what happens if it does get renewed and Acolyte doesn't and the numbers are the same? Because then the whole argument of, you listen to the toxic fans, even though I don't really think that's what it is, but it becomes a little more genuine to a degree.
Perhaps.
That you did actually take into consideration what people were saying.
What the toxic fans had to say?
Well, you know what I mean. I use that as a term of...
endearment?
Not endearment, as a term of just simplicity, basically. Because we can get into the whole debate about who toxic fandoms and that, but I think it's a curious road ahead, because I really don't think, and again, not trying to be pessimistic, I don't think this is going to be blockbuster numbers. I think it might be okay, but I think it might be comparable to Acolyte.
Yeah, well, and it's a busy time of year as well. I mean, we are in December. If they're going to follow their release schedule, they're going to be putting out an episode on Christmas Eve. People are busy Christmas Eve?
I'm going to say that comes out on a Monday. I'm going to say they're going to adjust that.
I've heard no announcement on this yet.
Yeah, but that would be really... I mean, I'm fine with it, but Actually, I'm not. Jeez, we
No,
will
to
be
say,
busy on Christmas
most
Eve.
people have plans Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
That'll be a long day if I'm gonna watch Acolyte or Acolyte.
Oh, boy.
Now I'm even making it longer for myself if I watch that. But it would be a long day if I watched Skeleton Crew because I would try to crank out that video that night.
Mm-hmm.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Here's my Acolyte. Jeez. Thor is a Freudian slip. I guess I really want to watch the Acolyte again.
I guess that's what you're doing by yourself on Christmas.
But anyway, I think that's going to be all we got for you this time. Now it is your turn. Take to the comments below. Let us know what you think of any and all of today's news. Should we put any stock in these first initial numbers? And is it way too early to be talking about a season 2 of Skeleton Crew? But if it does get one, what do you think? How does the Renew the Acolyte crowd respond to that? Whatever the case may be, leave a comment below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.